It's pretty incredible how an abstract idea can become a real, actual lifeline in a crisis. In this explainer, we're diving into a deeply personal story about exactly that, how a specific philosophical framework became a powerful anchor during a moment of profound despair, offering real strength when it was needed most. This quote right here, this is the heart of it. It really sets the stage for a powerful journey, one that takes us from the absolute brink of despair to a place of real resilience. So let's unpack how this anchor was actually built. Okay, so first things first, we need to understand the storm itself. This part is all about looking at the crisis head-on, exploring that darkness the author was facing and the initial overwhelming impulse to just escape it. So the author talks about this weight, this darkness that was so heavy it felt like ending their life was the only way out. But here's what's so fascinating. Their belief system didn't just offer some simple comfort. No, it completely reframed the very idea of that escape and turned it into something else entirely. And that brings us to the philosophical foundation they were leaning on. Now, try not to think of these as just abstract doctrines. Think of them more like the fundamental rules of existence, the rules of the game, that offered a totally new way of looking at their whole situation. First up is samsara. The basic idea here is that life isn't a one-and-done deal that just ends. Instead, it's this endless, repeating cycle, a continuous wheel of being born, dying, and being reborn. And the crucial part, this cycle is defined by suffering, and it's directly shaped by the things we do. And that flows right into the next big idea, karma. Now, this isn't some cosmic judge in the sky handing out points. It's much more like a law of spiritual physics. For every action, there's a consequence. So if samsara is the wheel, karma is what keeps it spinning, with the effects of our actions rippling out across that whole cycle. Okay, so this is where it all clicks. The author takes these two massive ideas, samsara and karma, and applies them directly to their moment of crisis. It's like they're performing a kind of mental, spiritual calculation. And this creates this huge mental shift. The first impulse was to see suicide as an escape, right? A final solution to stop the pain. But when you filter that same act through the lens of karma and samsara, it becomes a harmful action. It's suddenly not an end to suffering at all, but an act that actually guarantees it will continue and probably get worse for a future self. And this wasn't some vague fear of bad karma. The author imagined very real, very terrifying consequences. Being reborn into a life with even more intense mental anguish, or maybe inescapable poverty, or just total isolation. The point is, the choice wasn't about ending pain anymore. It was about compounding it for someone who would still be, well, them. This new way of thinking then opens up another door to an even deeper kind of reflection. So instead of only looking forward at future consequences, the author starts to look backward, trying to figure out where all this present suffering might even be coming from. And this leads to a pretty profound question. What if this heavy, persistent exhaustion with life, what if it isn't new? What if it's actually an echo, the karmic result of a similar choice made in a past life? The author really considered that this struggle, right now, could be a consequence that's been rippling through time. Now, it is so important to get this next part right. This line of thought isn't about blaming yourself or feeling helpless or judging your past self. It's the total opposite. It's about seeing a destructive pattern, maybe for the first time, and feeling empowered to finally break that cycle. This life, right now, becomes the one shot you have to make a different choice. And that brings us to how this all resolves. It's not some loud, triumphant moment. It's something much deeper, much quieter, a profound sense of gratitude for a framework that offered a way through the storm. This final quote, it really says it all. The feeling isn't one of just grimly hanging on. It's one of deep relief and luck. The author feels lucky to have had this anchor, this perspective that held them steady when everything else was telling them to let go. So in the end, this belief system did so much more than just prevent something from happening. It completely transformed the crisis. It shifted the perspective from a short-term problem to a long-term, interconnected story. It offered a path not just away from a final act, but towards a new way of living, one built on understanding, resilience, and real hope. And that leaves us with a question to think about, right? For the author, it was this specific philosophical view. But for all of us, when we're facing life's biggest, toughest challenges,
It's worth asking, what's our anchor? What framework, what belief, what idea gives us the perspective we need to hold on and find a little bit of hope?